After a really slow start to the 2023 season, Masataka Yoshida has caught fire in a big way. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and Masataka Yoshida was the biggest offseason signing by the Boston Red Sox, which comes with some really high expectations, especially in the Boston market. But as with every rookie and every new player in Major League Baseball, there are going to be bumps in the road. However, over the last couple of weeks, we're starting to see what Yoshida is truly capable of. And honestly, if I'm a pitcher in Major League Baseball right now, I'm a little bit nervous. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down this emergence by Masataka Yoshida. We're going to talk about what he's doing differently, how he can sustain this, and what the expectation should be on Masataka Yoshida going forward. But before we get into that, the weather is getting warmer, and what better way to celebrate than some new Red Sox gear? Foco has some of the most unique, fully licensed Red Sox items available on the internet, and viewers of this channel get 10% off their entire purchase when they use code Red Seat Radio. All one word, Red Seat Radio, 10% off your entire order. So click the link below to get yourself or someone you love ready for summers at Fenway. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Like I said in the intro, Masataka Yoshida's 2023 campaign got off to a bit of a slow start. Through his first 14 games in a major league uniform, he ended up with an 189 average with a really impressive 318 on base percentage when you compare that to his average, but he also had a really low 264 slug, which equaled a 582 OPS. Since then, though, his last 6 games, Masataka Yoshida hit 478 with an insane 500 on base percentage. He's getting on base half the time. That is crazy. He also has a 913 slug and a 1.413 OPS, which alone brought his statistics up to a 276 batting average with a 317 on base percentage and an 831 OPS. That also equals a 127 OPS plus. As of right now, Masataka Yoshida has been 27% more productive at the plate over the first month of this season than the average player in baseball. To go along with that, he also has 4 home runs and 16 RBIs. Now, what may be more important than just the statistics alone in these last 6 games is how different his swing looks. The biggest concern with Masataka Yoshida over the course of the first 2 weeks of the season was that he was on top of everything, right? He was pulling the ball, he was swinging very openly, and that was driving the ball into the ground, and it was pulling the ball to the right-hand side. That's just not Masataka Yoshida's game. Over the last couple of series, what we've been seeing is Masataka Yoshida getting more under the ball, lifting the ball a lot more, and we're seeing exactly how much power he fully has, and we're also seeing him start spraying the ball all over the field. It's not just pull power anymore. We're starting to see him push the ball to the left side of the outfield, and it's resulting in a lot of singles and a lot of on-base opportunities. So what happened between the first 14 games of the season and these last 6? Well, there could be a couple of reasons why Masataka Yoshida is finally breaking out. The first is the obvious one, and that is that he's finally adjusting to Major League pitching. There are a lot of differences between the way games are pitched in the NPB and the way games are pitched in MLB. The biggest one, in my opinion, is the difference in velocity. According to a 2021 study, the NPB had an average fastball of 90.7 miles per hour, whereas Major League Baseball was sitting closer to 92 miles an hour at 91.7. And while to you and me that doesn't seem like a huge difference, if a ball is between 90 and 93 miles an hour, it probably looks the same to us, but to Major League hitters, to professional hitters, they have just milliseconds to decide whether or not to swing the bat. On top of that too, you have just milliseconds of time to be able to hit the ball in the sweet spot or hit the ball hard at all, right? Any difference in that could mean you rolling it over, could mean you popping it out, or could mean you are just entirely miss the ball altogether. So for Masataka Yoshida to play 8 years at one average velocity, then come over here and play at a completely different velocity, there was obviously going to be some adjustment period. The other difference between the NPB and Major League Baseball is the fact that Major League Baseball relies heavily on a sinker. Most pitchers in Major League Baseball do and can throw a sinker. That's not as normal in the NPB. You don't see as many sinkers in Japan's baseball league as you do to Major League Baseball. On top of that that too, NPB pitchers tend to rely more on curveballs and off-speed pitches than United States pitchers do. A lot of United States pitchers use things like sinkers, cutters, sliders to get guys out, whereas in the NPB, you're seeing more fastball, curveball, changeup, right? Different movement on different pitches. Obviously, there are still some similarities, but when you are a hitter who comes over from the NPB, you do have to get used to a multitude of different movement on pitches. And there's even more, because in the NPB, starting pitchers go longer into games. There is less change in pitchers, and starting pitchers, unless they're doing absolutely terribly, are expected to go deeper into games. For Masataka Yoshida, what that means is coming over to the United States, you have to get used to knowing a lot more analytics on the pitching staff of the opponent, right? Because you are seeing a ton more pitchers per game, which could have been a problem early on for Masataka Yoshida. So there is a possibility that Masataka Yoshida is starting to figure out Major League pitching. Now, he never looked terrible against Major League pitching, but like we talked about, he was on top of the ball. He was sort of opening his swing a little bit, and that was probably due to him trying to adjust to different pitches. So that could be one explanation as to why Masataka Yoshida, kind of out of the blue, started raking at the plate. Then you add on top of that too is the fact that he could be adjusting to living in the United States, right? That's sort of an underrated factor when a player comes over from Japan. This is an entirely different country with entirely different customs and a language that he does not regularly speak. Those are a ton of adjustments just in your personal life. Then you add in the adjustments you have to make to be a legit Major League hitter. That's a lot to put on someone, especially early on in a Major League season. So that could be situation number one. Situation number two is that this is just simply what Masataka Yoshida does. He starts off slow and he sort of ramps himself up within the first month and takes off from there. For example, on Twitter, BS Masa tweeted out, who is a fan of the NPB, that last year Masataka Yoshida had a 220 average with 0 home runs and 7 RBIs on April 16th last year in the NPB. Then by April 30th of that same year, he was hitting 330 with 4 home runs and 23 RBIs, meaning that he could be a guy that just gets off to a bit of a slow start. It kind of makes sense with the way he plays the game, right? He's a very patient hitter. He's a guy who wants to wait out the strike zone and make sure that he has his perfect pitch. It makes sense that for the beginning of the year, he starts off a little bit slower. In my opinion, I think it's just a combination of everything, right? It's a combination of moving to an entire country. It's a combination of having huge expectations put on him. It's a combination of having to adjust to Major League pitching. And it's a combination of this is just Masataka Yoshida's game. This is how Masataka Yoshida goes through an entire season. He starts slow, he gets hotter. So in my opinion, there isn't one clear answer as to why Masataka Yoshida broke out kind of suddenly, but I think it's just a combination of all of the factors above. The big question here is this sustainable? In my opinion, this is a pretty simple yes, and the reason for that is because of the outlying statistics on Masataka Yoshida's stats right now, because you have your sort of base statistics, right? His average, his on-base percentage, his slug, his OPS, but if you take a step further, you could see exactly why Masataka Yoshida has been successful up until this point, and for that, we're going to take a look at his Baseball Savant page. Taking a look at his Baseball Savant page, there are some really great signs. He is 95th percentile in K rate, meaning that only 5% of Major League hitters are striking out less than Masataka Yoshida. In fact, he's also walking as much as he's striking out. Both of those statistics are about 11.2%. And this is sort of exactly what we expected from Masataka Yoshida, right? He came in kind of heralded as a guy who controls the strike zone, who takes more walks than he strikes out. So it's a really great sign in terms of longevity that even though Masataka Yoshida got off to a slower start at the plate than we probably would have liked, he is still maintaining his approach and still maintaining his patience. He's not trying to be someone he's not. On top of that, he isn't swinging and missing a ton either. He's 83rd percentile in whiff rate, meaning that only 17% of Major League Baseball is swinging and making contact with pitches more than Masataka Yoshida is, and he isn't chasing a lot either. He's in the 76th percentile in chase rate. Meaning all of this put together, in my opinion, kind of paint a picture of what his approach looks like, right? And we talked about how it's a great sign that Masataka Yoshida's approach has not changed, and it's true, right? We knew that all of these factors were going to be a part of his game coming into 2023, but sometimes, especially when you're a rookie, especially when you're new to Major League Baseball, and especially when you've got a big contract tied to your name. When things aren't working out immediately, you sometimes see guys try to change it up and be the guy people want them to be, as opposed to just playing as themselves. So if we're looking at whether or not Masataka Yoshida can hit near 300 all year with an above average OPS plus and some power, I think it's 100% likely, because of the fact that even though he struggled early, he's maintaining that plate approach. And to me, that's the most important thing. Basically, what I mean is the pieces have always been there. We are just finally seeing him put it together. And we could finally kind of get an example as to why the Red Sox were so high on Masataka Yoshida, both in free agency and before the season started. And I fully expect Masataka Yoshida to be a mainstay in this Red Sox offense going forward, because of the changes that he's made to his swing path and because his plate approach has not changed. And then you just add in the fact that he has this kind of raw, natural, effortless power. He could be a legitimate threat in this Red Sox offense for the rest of the season and the rest of his contract, to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion. So after hearing all the facts and statistics, let me know what you think of Masataka Yoshida's sort of breakthrough here in Major League Baseball. Do you think it's sustainable, one? And what do you think caused this emergence? Do you think it was any of the factors that I listed? Do you think it was something else? Let me know all your thoughts on seeing what the real Masataka Yoshida could look like in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Also, do not forget, if you want any sort of unique, fully licensed Red Sox gear, use code REDSEATRadio at foco.com for 10% off your entire order. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.